Anna Seawold, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. I'm a parent educator, and my mission is to help children by helping parents. The motto of this podcast is raising our children, growing ourselves. Today, healing trauma and restoring wholeness. There are so many therapeutic methods and healing modalities available these days. One of them is IFS, Internal Family Systems, or parts work. I'm not sure how familiar you are with IFS, but if you are into psychology, personal development, and spirituality, most likely you've heard about it. If you're not, then this will be a great discovery. I have the honor of speaking with the creator of IFS, Dr. Richard Schwartz. I'm psyched to bring this conversation to you, and I hope you will find it helpful. He's the creator of Internal Family Systems, IFS, a highly effective evidence-based therapeutic model. It provides a non-pathologizing, optimistic, and empowering perspective and a practical and effective set of techniques for working with individuals, couples, families, and most recently, corporations and classrooms. Dr. Schwartz began his career as a systemic family therapist and an academic grounded in systems thinking. Dr. Schwartz developed Internal Family System in response to clients' descriptions of various parts within themselves. While exploring inner terrain with traumatized clients, he stumbled onto the discovery of an undamaged healing essence that he calls the self, and that led him on the spiritual journey described in his new book, No Bad Parts. His IFS Institute offers training for professionals and the general public, and he's currently on the faculty of Harvard Medical School. Dr. Schwartz is a featured speaker for national professional organizations, and he has published 5 books and over 50 articles about IFS, which has become a global movement. In this episode, we talked about the myth of the monomind, the goal and the 4 main benefits of IFS, the origin, growth, and milestones. It's been a 40-year history after all. Then Dr. Schwartz describes the parts and their roles, and then we do a live demo. A little bit about the parts. We all have different parts. Think of an inner critic, for example, as one part. They all serve a purpose. Even the most destructive ones have protective intentions. Parts are often frozen in past traumas when their extreme roles are needed. When they trust it's safe to step out of their roles, they're highly valuable to the system. Don't worry if this doesn't make any sense to you at all right now. It will after you listen to Dr. Schwartz's explanation. As I said, we did a live demo. Yes, Dr. Schwartz did an IFS session with me in real time with a real problem of mine. You get the front row seat as I put myself out there for you to witness the power of this model. It's been several months since the recording of this conversation, and I attest that my issue hasn't come back ever since. It was not only truly a transformative experience, but my problem has disappeared. Pretty fascinating, powerful stuff. It was a gift to me, and I am forever grateful for that experience from the master himself. If you're called to explore IFS more, I say go for it. I highly recommend this model as a tool. Also, check out his fantastic book, No Bad Parts. It's highly readable, wise, and compassionate. Visit their website if you want to find a therapist near you or if you are interested in receiving professional training. I want to leave you with a quote from the book on how we relate in the inner world will be how we relate in the outer. If we can appreciate and have compassion for our parts, even for the ones we've considered to be enemies, we can do the same for people who resemble them. On the other hand, if we hate or disdain our parts, we will do the same with anyone who reminds us of them." Unquote. Please enjoy this eye-opening conversation with Dr. Richard Schwartz. Dr. Schwartz, it is my true honor to welcome you to the podcast. I am so thrilled and excited for this opportunity. I've been waiting for this day. I'm so excited. I just love your work.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna. I had no idea. That's great to hear.
And I will later tell you what part of your work resonates with me deeply. There is a favorite part. I would love to know how IFS has evolved throughout the years. When you look back at this point in your life, in your career, what are some of the milestone moments and turning points?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't get asked very often. So there's several. So the first is back in, I think it was 1980, I had these bulimic clients because I was running a project, a study with bulimia. And I was trying to prove that family therapy alone could do the job, and it didn't work. And so I was very lucky because I had a couple clients who, when I asked why it wasn't working, were very articulate about what I call their parts. They would say, I have a part that attacks me all the time still, even though I'm in better shape with my parents and my family. There's still this critic in there that I can't get rid of. And it drives me crazy. That tells me how fat I am constantly. And then that one brings up a part that makes me feel worthless and empty and alone. Mm. And then to fill that void comes the binge to make me an unfeeling eating machine. And then that brings the critic back. So that moment when that client started talking that way, and I started to get intrigued by what she was saying, and before then didn't have a concept of the mind as being multiple at all, like most of us don't. And so initially I was scared, but then I got over that and listened inside myself. So it was a combination in terms of the moment when the clients started talking about it, and then me turning my focus inside and noticing I've got them too. And some of them are quite extreme also. And so that would be one. And then as I explored it with other clients and found very similar phenomena in them, another moment would be when I realized that these parts were not what they seemed. And in fact, had been forced into roles in the inner world that they didn't like. And that shifted everything, because when I discovered that, I could help my clients stop fighting with them or trying to get rid of them or ignore them, and instead start to listen to them and begin to hear how they were forced into the roles they're in and how much they hated those roles and were dying to get out of them. So just that shift, that changed an enormous amount. And then as I was trying to help these clients have these conversations inside with these parts, now that I know that they're not what they seem, they actually need to be listened to rather than fought with. And as a family therapist, I was having them have dialogues with their parts in the way I might with an external family, and listen to each other. And I was finding that my clients would suddenly get angry at a client, at a part, for example, maybe the critic. And it reminded me of family sessions where maybe I'm having two people talk to each other and then a third interrupts and interferes. And I learned as a family therapist to get that person out of the way and things would go better. So I decided to start trying that with the inner world. I would say to a client, could you ask the one who's so angry at the critic to just step back or give us some space in there? And to my amazement, clients could do it. And when they did it, they would shift into a totally different state, often, where they would know how to relate in a healing way. They would know how to listen and have compassion for the part that they had previously hated. And that was amazing. And so I got very excited at that the simple act of opening more space inside seemed to release this part, for lack of a better word, that knew what to do as a leader inside. And as I would do that in other clients, and you see it's like the same person would pop out, I started to get really excited and think maybe that person is everybody and can be accessed that way, and then does know how to relate in a healing way to the inner world. And so that was the big sort of turning point. And that's panned out now over all these 40 years, that that person is in there, can be released by simply getting parts to open space for it, and knows how to heal, both in the inner world and the outer world. So that's become the big deal of IFS.
And at that point, when you made those discoveries, were you talking to colleagues? Did you have support? Did you have people that were supporting you, or were you doing this on your own in a vacuum? And what was going on?
Yeah, so that's another good question. I was part of a family therapy training program at a place called the Institute for Juvenile Research, which was part of the University of Illinois at Chicago's Department of Psychiatry. And in that department, I was sort of seen as a betrayer because family therapy was a pendulum swing away from traditional analytic therapy, where you spend a lot of time focused on one person and analyzing them, versus understanding their context and why their problems exist because of their families. And here I was returning to this inner world. And so my colleagues gave me a lot of trouble about it. But I was lucky that there were some students who got excited about it with me. And so I had a little kind of study group that we would meet and compare notes over time and get excited together. And some of those people are still around. They're still with me. And yeah, go ahead.
And when did you apply it to yourself? When did you do it, or who did you do it with? Obviously, you didn't do this on your own.
Yeah, no, I can't do that much on my own. Some people can. Some people can do an enormous amount.
I tried following the book. It's not easy.
No, it's not
on
easy.
Your own.
Right.
Yeah, I would love it if somebody would facilitate it. And it's very different from traditional psychotherapy models. I mean, your entire approach is very radical and counter culture to begin with. What I like about is the role of a therapist is not one that creates dependency with a client, right? You enable the client to feel empowered, and you're just a presence there, a support. And you're not giving them any guidance or analyzing or making sense of what they're saying. And that's self-reliance, self-leadership, which is the self that when it steps forward. I just love that part so much about your work. Those two aspects, that the therapist is just a facilitator, and the person has the capacity to heal, and they're not damaged. And
yeah,
they can do it themselves and have a self-led life.
Yeah, that was another thing that evolved over time, because I would help person access self, but I still felt like I had to tell them what to do a lot of the time. And I would do that, and then gradually I started to think, well, what if I don't? What if I step out of the way and just see what happens? And so I increasingly would do that more and more. So instead of saying, say this to the part, I would say, what do you want to say to the part now? And now what do you want to say to it? And amazingly, the person would know just what to say or how to relate, how to hold the part and comfort it, or just like a kind of good inner parent. And so, yeah, that is an aspect about the model that I like the best, that when somebody finishes the therapy with me, they don't say, boy, you were a great therapist. They'll say, I healed myself. You're a pretty good therapist, but I healed myself. And that's true. So, and it's a lot easier on me as a therapist to not have to be the one to figure out all their answers and analyze them that way. Just to be with them. We do provide some guidance in terms of the model itself, but not in terms of the information they should be getting or anything like that.
Yeah. So when did you try it first time on your own with someone? When did you do it for yourself?
Yeah, it would be hard to pinpoint, but it was one of those things where there was a period of time where I was doing it with a number of different clients, and I would try to do it on my own. And I would think, isn't it ironic that here all these people can do this and I'm the one who's discovering it and I can't do it. I can't, all my clients could see their parts quite vividly. And when I would focus inside, I wouldn't see a thing. It was like I was doing it with the lights off and groping around in the dark, and I could sense them and I could hear their voice at times. But I just thought, there's some kind of cosmic joke here that I'm the only one that can't do this. And, years later now, it turns out that there's a percentage of us that just do it differently, that don't see anything and still can do it fine. It's just, and in terms of when did I start, I was very discouraged for a while. And then with this little sort of study group, we started trading sessions with each other. And I don't know what year that would be, maybe 82, maybe. And that's when I discovered that, yeah, I can do it. I just do it differently. And
do you remember like the first session, what showed up for you?
Oh, I wish I could. Yeah, I really don't, I'm afraid. I had a big critic. And so I know at some point in there, I was working with that part.
So if you were to summarize the goal of IFS and the benefits, I think that would be a good place. And then we can go into the description of the parts.
Yeah, so I've come to conclude that there are 4 separate goals. One is the liberation of these parts from the extreme roles they've been forced into so they can be who they're designed to be. And that's where it's parallel to families. So many kids, because of the bad parenting or the dynamics of the family, are forced into roles that aren't who they are, but maybe are needed to protect the family or are needed to protect themselves. And when you, as a family therapist, you come in and you reorganize things, they're liberated from those roles and they can be who they're designed to be. Turns out the same process happens inside of people, that as these parts, as you change some things inside that frees them up, and they can do what we call unburdening, which we can talk about later, they will immediately transform into their naturally valuable states. So that's the first goal, is to help all these parts be who they're really designed to be. And then a second goal is to help what I call restore the trust of those parts in this leader, an inner leader that I call the self, that I alluded to earlier. Because trauma and attachment injuries make the parts think they have to run everything. They're like, in family therapy, we have the term parentified children. They're young parts who think they have to take over because what I call self didn't protect them. and they get stuck in time. They're frozen in the past in these traumas, and they live as if they need to do what they did back then when you were getting hurt. So as a parentified inner child, it takes a while before they can actually trust there is this other person in there who can take care of us. And so that would be a second goal. And the third goal is for the parts to begin to get to know each other and harmonize rather than polarize. And so we'll facilitate having them talk to each other with self as a mediator and find ways they can work together differently and get along inside, so that reharmonizing is a goal. And then the fourth goal is for people to become not only more self-led internally, but also in their outside life. And so their interactions, in this case with kids, with their kids, comes from this open-hearted place with these C-word qualities, which we haven't named yet, I guess. And their interaction with their partners or their work colleagues or their interactions in terms of social activism is all coming from this place, which at some point I began to catalog the qualities that people would manifest when they accessed self. And we have what we call the 8 C's of self-leadership, because oddly enough, all the words started with the letter C. So, self-led parenting involves parenting from a place of calm and confidence and curiosity rather than judgment, and compassion.
Clarity, right?
Yep. Clarity, courage, creativity, and connectedness. So those are the 8 C words that seem to capture the essence of what I call self. And we all have that in us. The key is to stay that way when our kids are driving us crazy. And that fourth goal takes some healing often with many people before you can achieve it, but it's a nice goal to have.
Yeah, I wrote down something from the book. It said, the way you are in the inner world, that's how you relate, the way you relate to your inner parts, that's the way you relate to the outer world. And you just mentioned that. I think that's just such a profound statement.
It really is, and especially when it comes to parenting, because if, for example, you hate your own anger, your own angry part, then when your child is acting angry, that judgment of your child will come through, even if you try to hide it. And that's going to give that child the message that anger isn't safe, that it doesn't belong in the family. And that's going to make your child exile that angry part. And if instead you know that angry is just a part, it's nothing to fear, and it's a protector, it's a part that's trying to protect you and keep you safe, then you go to it and you honor it for its service, like you might the military. And then you learn about what it's protecting, and you help it not have to protect in such an extreme way. And you come to have a really good, loving relationship with it inside. Then when your kid is angry, you can do the same. You can be curious and calm and compassionate, and that will all translate into how your kid relates to that part of him or her.
So you already alluded to the parts. I would love it if you could just name the parts and have a little brief description of each part. You spoke about the self a little bit, but I think we haven't named the parts yet.
Yeah. So, back in the day when these clients were telling me about their parts, I got intrigued. I'm a systems thinker, so I'm trying to do what I did in families, which is to understand the network, how the whole system operates, rather than just focus on one part at a time. And so I just kept asking asking more and more questions. And yeah, so what I ultimately concluded was that the parts aren't created by trauma or anything like that. That it's really the nature of the mind to be subdivided that way, to have these inner minds, these inner subminds that are there from birth, either manifest or dormant, and they come online later. And they're there because they have these wonderful qualities to lend us in our life and resources to help us figure things out in life. And so if you were raised in a family that was perfectly harmonious and you were never traumatized, you would hardly notice them because they'd all be sort of working behind the scenes to help you out. But trauma and bad parenting force them out of these naturally valuable states into extreme roles. And so we do have categories for the common extreme roles that parts are forced into, but I want to be clear that that's not who they are. That's just like a kid in a family, that's the role they were forced into, and most of the time would love to leave. And so, again, as a systems thinker, I'm looking for distinctions and patterns. And the distinction that was obvious right away was between parts that you might call inner children, who before they were hurt were playful and loving and creative, but after they get hurt, now they carry what I'll call the burden of emotional pain, or the burden of terror, or the burden of worthlessness. And because now they carry those things, they have the power to make us feel really bad. They can overwhelm us with that and pull us back into those trauma scenes. And we don't really know that there were these former inner children. We just think we want to get away from the memories, sensations, emotions, and beliefs. And so we lock them away inside in inner basements or abysses or cysts. So then I call those the exiles. So vulnerable parts that, because of their sensitivity, are the ones who get hurt the most. And then it's insult to injury. The injury was the trauma, and then the insult is you lock them away and abandon them. And so they're really hurting in these inner basements. And when you have a lot of exiles, the world is a lot more dangerous, and you feel a lot more delicate because so many things could trigger them. You know, anything slightly similar to the original trauma, or not even, they can get triggered. And when they get triggered, it's a big emergency. And there has to be parts to deal with it, or there has to be parts to keep them from being triggered. And so a lot of other parts who, before the trauma, were in their naturally valuable states, are forced to become protectors. And some of them protect by preempting anything that might trigger the exiles, and just trying to keep them contained. And so those parts will try to manage your life so that nothing gets to you, or nothing bad or scary happens. They'll manage your relationships so no one gets close enough to trigger you or hurt you. They'll manage your appearance so people don't reject you, and they'll manage your performance so everybody thinks you're so smart to counter the worthlessness. So we call them managers. That's one class of protector. And despite their best efforts, we still get triggered. And when that happens, it's a big emergency. These flames of exiled emotion come bursting out and threaten to take you out, make it so you can't function. And so there's another set of parts whose job it is to quickly deal with that emergency And so they tend to be impulsive and reactive and uncaring about the consequences to your body or your relationships. They just got to get you higher than those flames of emotion right now, or distract you until the flames burn themselves out. So we call those firefighter parts, another class of protector. And so that's the little map to the territory I put together that's held up really well over these 40 years. And yeah.
And apart from the parts, we have the self that is not a part. It's just there. It's the essence of every person. It's the true essence.
Correct. That's right.
And I love the spiritual aspect of your work.
Thank you.
Do you also consider it a spiritual aspect?
Very much, yeah. For me, it's become a spiritual practice, and saying that is kind of shocking to parts of me, because for so much of my life, I was sort of anti-spiritual. I come from a very scientific, kind of atheistic family, and so it took me a long time to accept that what we're calling self isn't just some kind of evolutionary healing mechanism, but it actually is comparable to what other systems call Buddha nature or Atman or the God within. That's who we really are, and that's in us. There's no way to explain otherwise how self is never damaged, how you just automatically know what to do in terms of healing your parts and healing your relationships when you access it. So I more and more started to look to spiritual traditions and found that what they were describing was pretty similar. They had different ways of accessing it, but it was pretty similar to what I was finding just beneath the surface of these parts, such that when they opened space, it was right there.
Yeah, I love this aspect of your work, the self. Not to sound too grandiose, I always had this intuitive knowing that to be true, right? And this is why it's so resonant with me.
And it doesn't sound grandiose at all. I think many of us have had that intuition. It's just nice to know, that we can prove it.
Yeah. Are your children bickering and fighting constantly?
Are you dealing with hitting, kicking, biting, and wondering what to do?
Are you tired of the jealousy and hearing, "That's not fair"?
Are you wanting to help your kids have healthy, long-lasting relationships and friendships?
Hi, I'm Anna Seawold, host of the Authentic Parenting Podcast.
And I'm Laura Froyen, host of the Balanced Parent Podcast.
Join us for a live, dynamic 2-part workshop to answer all your sibling questions.
We are going to dive deep into the key mindset shifts that you need to confidently navigate your kids' relationship with each other.
And you will add critical tools to your toolbox that will help them take ownership of their relationship and start solving their own problems so that you can stop feeling like a referee or a hall monitor. The workshop is happening on October 21st and November 4th, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can get all the details and sign up now at authenticparenting.com/siblings. And of course, the link is in the show notes. And for the members of my Patreon community, there is a 10% discount. We hope to see you there. You don't want to miss this opportunity to sit down and pick our brains on this complex topic. I am wondering if you are open to exploring some demo with me. I would be open to participate to the best of my ability. I am open. My listeners know that I do often participate as a guinea pig in a lot of things like this. But from my personal curiosity, I tried doing it on my own, but I couldn't. So I'm wondering if we can give it a try.
More than happy to do that, Anna.
because it gives a different flavor, instead of talking about it. Right. It's yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your listeners will get it much more if you're willing. Yeah. So I appreciate your willingness.
I'm sure I have so many exiles.
And just so I know for sure, is it Anna or Anna?
Anna.
Anna. Yeah. Good.
Mm-hmm. I may have the Anna part too. Just kidding.
Yeah. So let's do it. So where would you like to start?
I have this anxious part, this panic attack part of me that has been present in the past maybe 2 years, that makes me very scared to be alone, to go into public, into narrow places, into high places. I just get overwhelmed, flooded with emotions, and I'm going to die. And it's very scary.
Yeah, be happy to help you with that.
Yeah.
So you ready?
Yes.
So go ahead and focus on that feeling and find it in your body or around your body.
It's like I'm even scared to find it in my body because at times it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, so we can keep that from happening. So ask the parts that are scared to just trust us to help it without being overwhelmed. And we're going to talk to it about not overwhelming you. And if it agrees, it won't, I promise. So see if they're willing to step back so you're not so scared of that.
I think so, yeah, with hesitance, but it seems like it's like, okay, whatever, but like arrogance a little bit. That part, whatever that part was.
We'll settle for that. Okay. So now focus again and see now if you can find that fear in your body or around your body.
It just comes like a whoosh, like a wind through my head, through my body, sort of like a tornado type of thing, but mostly upper body and head, I would say.
And as you notice it there, how do you feel toward it?
Very scared.
Okay. So again, we're going to ask the parts who are so scared of it to go into a kind of waiting room and let us deal with it. See if they're willing.
It's like, no, don't do that. It doesn't want to go. It's like resisting, almost clinging like a little kid.
Yeah. And
I'm going to say, I don't see it clearly. It's very dark, very dark.
Now, are you talking about the fear itself is clinging, or is it the part that's afraid of the fear?
It's that same, it's that same part, I think, that didn't want to, it's that same part.
It's the panic part?
No, it's not the panic part. It's
the
that
part.
other part.
Yeah. So ask what it's afraid will happen if it lets us work with the panic.
It says it will eat you up. It will, that's the exact words.
Yeah.
It says it will engulf you.
Yeah. Well, let it know that we get that that's been the case in the past. So I understand why it's so afraid of that. But we're going to do this in a way that won't happen. You know what could help maybe is before we go to the panic part, see if you can put it in a separate room that's comfortable so it's sort of contained. And let it know this isn't a prison or anything. This is just to reassure some of these other parts.
I did put it in a room that has big glass windows, and I can see it's changing color, turning from whitish, it's like a soul or a spirit type of thing, into pinkish color, and has almost like a ghost. You know how you see Halloween ghosts? It's like banging on the windows and cursing at me for putting him there.
Oh, okay. Well, tell him if he cooperates, we're going to help him out of there soon. Just tell him to chill for a minute. And then as the other part sees that he's contained, see if it'll also separate and trust you and me to help it.
This other part is like becoming a little bigger in size, and like getting taller and skinny, but is still wearing dark clothes. But I see some face coming.
Okay, good.
On it.
Yeah.
A face is showing up.
What's it look like?
It looks like a boy, a short-haired boy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now again,
Very, very skinny.
Again, is this the panic part, or it's the one who's afraid of the panic?
No, the panic part is now contained in the glass room and is like sort of looking surprised. It's like, what's going on?
All right.
It's almost, it is scared almost.
Yeah. But see if this skinny boy will trust us for a few minutes to help the panic part.
It's not looking at me. It's like going away from the panic part. It's like wants to get out of there on its own.
That's fine. It can go. It doesn't have to stay for this.
It's like wants to exit this dark, narrow hallway into what it looks like light may come out of there.
Okay, that's perfect. So turn your attention back to the panic part and tell me how you're feeling toward it now, Anna.
Not as scared, because I see it's just like a pathetic, like a dust, wind.
That's right.
Type of thing. And it's like, psst.
Yeah.
It's like a balloon. It's like,
the air is coming out of it.
Yeah. And it's almost dying out.
Yeah, well, we don't want it to die, but we do want to get to know it. Do you?
It fell on the ground now, and it has gelatin-like a consistency now.
Okay. And do you still want to keep it in the room, or can we let it out or get closer to it?
I think I can get closer at this stage because it has this amorphous body and it's like gelatin-like, and it's now green and brighter pink, and the eyes are sort of on the surface, and it has like legs and particles, like tentacles, I guess.
Okay.
So it can't fly or it can't do anything.
Okay.
It's flat on the ground.
So maybe go into the room and see how close you can get to it. Feel safe.
I'm there observing it, kneeling, getting close, but it's smiling at me now.
Good.
It's smiling at me and it's like, eh.
Yeah, maybe just ask.
Yeah.
Ask what it wants you to know.
Ask it what it wants to know.
No, what it wants you to know about itself. And don't think of the answer. Just wait for an answer to come from it.
It says, I'm just playing a joke on you. Nothing.
Huh. Okay. Ask why it's doing that.
It says, because I like playing with you and torturing you like that.
Okay.
It's like he has control over me. It says that's how I control you. That's my power.
Yeah.
It's fun for me to see you
Panic.
suffer like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the expression on the face too. It has this type of look now. It changed.
Okay. Well, thank him for being honest about all that. And what's the kick in torturing you? What does he get out of it?
It says, because I will evaporate otherwise.
Oh, okay. So somehow
It's his purpose or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll tell you what, ask if this is a part of you or if it's something else. And again, don't think of the answer, just wait for the answer.
No, it says, I've never was part of you, you dummy. You think I was part of you? Ha, ha, ha. It's still like making fun of me.
Yeah, but it's being honest, which is all we're asking. Okay. If you want to,
It says I'm an alien.
that's the sense I get. If you want to, you can ask how it got into you. It may tell you, it may not.
Not getting anything.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm seeing like a hospital room.
Okay. Were you in the hospital at some point?
When I was like 9, I think.
So ask it if that's when it got in.
It's very vague. I still see the hospital room and I don't see it as much anymore. I see like a building popping up.
Okay, no problem. So
It almost wants to vanish and disappear on its own.
well, we're going to help it with that. Just tell it that given that it's not a part of you, it really doesn't belong inside of you. And we're going to send it to where it belongs and just see how it reacts.
It says, I needed your permission. Thank you. And it just became this air-like quality, ghost-like thing, but thinner and elongated, green color.
Yeah.
And it just wants to fly and go up into the sky. But it's circling in this dark room.
I'm hoping that's not a trick. It could well be a trick. So we're going to do something else. So invite the light. Go ahead.
It turned green and now it's opening its wings or whatever. It says, I am not malicious. I can care for you.
That's interesting. Okay.
I don't know if it's a trick or
I don't know either. We got to check that out. Yeah. So for some reason these things can't lie. So ask if it is tricking you, if it is trying to keep you from sending it away.
It says, no, you don't believe me, but I have good intentions.
Okay. Well, we don't believe it because it just said all it likes to do is torture you. So what's that about?
It says, I transformed. How can you not recognize it?
Oh, that's a possibility. But have it describe more of how the transformation happened.
It doesn't say anything. It says, I don't know.
Okay.
I just see the color is different.
Okay. So ask what it would like to do inside of you now.
It says, just keep me alongside of you.
In a comforting way?
Yeah. In a more humble way.
Okay.
It says, I just want to be there with you.
Okay. How does that sound?
It sounds manageable because it's in a less threatening and green state and it has some kind of a body.
Okay.
It's non-threatening.
Okay, good.
Oh, and it says, oh, if you want, you can have me on a leash.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Anna, so let's invite the parts that were so afraid of it to come and check it out now and just see how they react.
Very curious. Almost wants to. It turned into a puppy for some reason. It's on a leash and it's a tiny puppy, white and brown. And this other part is petting and touching the ears and wants to play with it. Very curious and warm, I guess.
Good.
But they're still in that dark place where the window room is there, and they are like in that hallway.
So do you want to bring them out? Do you want to see if they're ready to come out?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think I'm going to take them out.
yeah, wherever they belong, just bring them.
It's just an open field. It's a nice open field, green space, and no obstructions, nothing. And just, it's this teenager, I guess, now with the size, but still short hair and a black outfit with the puppy.
Great.
On a leash.
Okay. So how's that? Does that feel complete for now?
Yeah, but it's like, where do we go from here? It's like too scary because maybe that's unknown. It's joyous, but it's also scary.
What's the fear? Say more about the fear.
I think this boy-like part doesn't know what to do with himself.
Okay, that's good.
Where to go in this big field? It's confused because there is no location. It's just this empty space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just see what kind of help he needs from you around that.
It says I just want to sit here and think about it on my own.
He said that?
And he just sat on the ground, still with the dog, though.
Okay, good. And does he want you to be there with him or visit him, the two of them, or how should we leave it?
He doesn't want me there. It's just he just wants to be alone.
Huh. Ask him how he feels toward you.
It says I'm too hurt to right now to look at you. I need to be with my pain.
Okay. And how do you feel toward him as he tells you that?
I feel very sad.
Sad for him, or you feel his sadness?
I think I feel his sadness.
Okay, that's good, but how do you feel toward him?
Like I want to reprimand so that he can listen to me.
Yeah, so that part that wants to treat him that way, let's get that one to step out. How do you feel toward him now?
Just witnessing that he's sad and lonely.
So you
But maybe he's okay like that.
So the part that thinks that needs to step out too? And how do you feel toward him now?
I think I want to hug him.
Yeah, so go ahead and do that and see how he reacts if he allows you to.
He's very cautious.
But he's letting you?
Yes, I'm very close, but he's not showing his face to me. It's almost like a faceless, and he's facing the field and I'm facing him.
Yeah, that's all fine. So just hug him that way until he does start to trust you a little bit, that you care about him and that he's not alone.
Yeah, he put his head on my shoulder now.
Perfect. And ask him now if he would like your help in figuring out what to do with himself.
It says, "You are not my mother. Don't tell me what to do."
Yeah, well, there was a part that was wanting to discipline him and so on.
Yeah.
So tell him that's not who's with him now, that the you who's with him now isn't going to be telling him what to do, just going to be helping him figure it out. See how that sounds.
Yeah. He says, yeah.
Okay.
Not talking, but body language more.
Yeah, good. And tell him you'll protect him from those two parts we had to get to step out so you can be this way with him.
There's this doubtful part of me that shows up now.
It's doubtful that you can do that, or what?
Yeah, it's doubtful that I can protect him.
Okay, so tell him you're going to have to do some work to be able to do that, but that's your intention.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So that works?
That works. Now he's looking at me. I think he's gaining a bit of facial features.
Uh-huh.
And maybe even like a sad tears in his eyes, just a little bit.
Good. Yeah, so he can show you his vulnerability. He's not afraid you're going to discipline him or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So does that feel complete for now, Anna?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a peaceful scene.
Yeah, good. So tell them both that you're going to keep visiting them this way, and you're going to work with these other parts so they don't badger them.
Mm-hmm.
And then come on back outside.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel?
Relieved. It's like a weight fell off of my shoulders.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're really good at this.
I don't know if I wasn't sure if I would be able to see things.
Oh, you saw things. I was so envious. I'm so envious because it was all very vibrant.
Things. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you literally visit another world. It's a similar world to the shaman's world. So it is non-ordinary reality, but it's quite real also.
Wow. So there is no interpretations going on, right? Like why, what, where is this? Why is this happening? We don't want to do that.
No, mainly you want to take care of these parts now like you would they were your kids. And what we just did illustrates a lot of what we were talking about earlier. Because when you were with that boy and he was sad and your first impulse was to discipline him, and then you had an impulse to, I forget, it was kind of cold. And we got...
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, we got those parts to step out. Then you knew just what to do. Spontaneously, you wanted to hold him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you have kids, but if you do...
I do. I have a daughter.
Then that's what you want to notice. As your daughter seems sad, what parts come up, and can they step back and let you be with her from self? And then you'll hold her rather than discipline her.
I think I'm pretty good at that usually.
Sometimes you can do it for your external kids and you can't for your internal ones.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Huh. So the scary part will not scare me anymore?
Well, you have to, there's some homework to this. So on a daily basis, I would ask you to meet with these two every day for a period of time. Just remind them that you're there. Remind them they can stay together in this nice area and that you're not going to forget about them. And if you do that, it's likely that part won't do that to you anymore. But even if it does, now you can know it for what it is, It's you don't have to be so scared of it. And you don't have to let it take over.
Yeah. It's like it's so vivid in my mind right now, the image that I was there, and the image and the setting is very, very, it's like a movie in my mind.
Yeah, so I would also have you listen to this again and, write down what kind of notes you need to remember it. So all of that is involved in the healing yourself side of it.
Wow. Quite amazing. What amazing transformations have you seen in yourself? Like some big ones
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So without being too self-disclosive, I was kind of obnoxious when I developed this because I relied on an arrogant part of me to have the courage to get in front of a department of psychiatry and talk about this, even in the face of a lot of attack. So I had a part that didn't give a shit about what people thought, which of course was protecting exiles that cared tremendously. But that part gave me the courage to get out there and do this. But when it came to being the leader of a community, it got in my way all the time. And the same with being a husband. And so, yeah, there was a point where I really, with the help of a number of people's confrontation, decided I had to work with that. And so I have. So, I hear from many people how humble I am now. And I can say that's well earned. I mean, I don't need the accolades. I don't need the adoration. I just do this because it was given me to bring. And most people think I'm a pretty good guy. So that's one example.
And so we don't want to vilify the parts, right? They played a part. They were useful. They served a purpose. We want to befriend them.
Often they were heroes. They saved your life sometimes. But then they get stuck in that role they were necessary during the trauma, but then they're frozen in time back there, and they think you're still 7 years old and they still have to do this, or you're going to die. And so a lot of it is just helping them see that's not true anymore.
So when you said the goal was to liberate, we're never going to get rid of the parts, that they're still going to be in exiles. They're still going to be part of us, but they're going to be in harmony with one another. And they're going to have a different role.
Exactly.
And in sort of integrate them together, right?
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Integrate.
Yeah. Not blend them as a smoothie,
right.
as Dan Siegel says, but
right.
integrate them as a fruit salad. They have their parts, but they go together.
That's right, exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So this is a very integrative therapy. As you say, not in the sense that a lot of the DID world thinks of it, where they disappear and you become one, but instead it's a harmonious inner family.
And it's applied to many, you can work with a wide array of clients, right? It can be applied.
Yeah, we work with most any diagnosis. So, and it's, very similar to the work we did, because most of those diagnoses are just the cluster of parts that tend to dominate. And so I would just have you focus on the symptom and get curious about it. And from doing that, you'll learn more about what the part's doing and why and how to help it.
Can you say a couple of words about the early mistakes you've made?
Yeah, well,
in developing this,
yeah,
it would be interesting.
The big mistake early on, because as my clients were describing their parts, they would talk about these exiles that carried all this pain and so on. And I thought, well, those are the parts that need the healing the most, so let's go there right away. And we would succeed in a session, and it would be very emotional and intense. And I would think, oh, good, now we've taken care of that. But they would have these big backlash reactions afterwards. And I've had clients have pretty severe ones where they get a big fever afterwards, or they get in a car crash, and that scared the hell out of me and made me think maybe this is too delicate, maybe. And then I got curious and learned from the protectors what I was doing wrong, and learned that I was trying to bypass them without their permission to go to these exiles that they'd been trying to keep locked up all the clients' life. And here I was just barging in and opening the door and letting them out. and they were punishing the client for that. So that's an example of a big mistake, and that I learned from that mistake that we need to respect these protectors and work with them first. It turned out in your situation, we didn't actually have to do that. Well, no, we did. We had to work with the parts that were afraid of the panic and get it to separate. But the other beautiful illustration in your example was how just the act of getting a few parts to separate, you suddenly were no longer afraid of it. You were curious about it. You were calm relative to it. You manifest self. But seconds earlier, had I had you work with the part, you would have been very scared of it or judgmental of it. So that's how quickly we can access that state of self.
Very empowering and very helpful healing. So what's your hope for IFS, where it's going?
Yeah, so, I'm old. I'll be 72 shortly. And I don't.
You don't look
Thank
like
you.
it. That's one part of you that it's invisible to us.
Thank you. And that's a good advertisement for the model, because if you stay connected to your young parts, then you stay young even when you get old. So
I was going to ask you a question about that, and I thought, that's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask you. Yes. Anyways.
Go ahead.
Because I always felt I'm almost 50, and nobody can tell that I'm almost 50, because I never believe. I feel like I'm always that young child that is stuck in where my trauma happened, right? When I was 13. So I feel like, and I was parentified and all of that. So I feel like, yes, I'm growing. My mind is growing, I'm maturing and all of that. But internally, I have this sense that I'm young, that there is no age, or maybe, I don't know how to describe this, but that notion of self
is ageless.
Ageless.
Yeah, that's right.
I always feel that.
That's right.
And it was with me, that notion.
Yeah,
that's why I called my practice authentic parenting. I talk about the authentic self.
Great.
That it's part of everyone, and I work with people with addiction, criminals, and that clientele, and oftentimes, organizations that they send them for parenting classes, they want me to see their files, their criminal history and things like that. I refuse to read a client's portfolio or the file beforehand, because I want to meet them as they are, because I know underneath of all those, I don't use that language, protectors, but I know there is that essence, the self, that never changes. It's always there. I truly believe in that, and that's how I live my life and work with people.
Yeah,
and when you connect to that part, it feels beautiful. That other human just opens up too. I think, but sometimes that part is deep.
It's covered over. Yeah,
it's covered over. So this is what I call connecting to your authentic self.
Yeah, we're talking the same language. Yeah,
we are. When I read the book, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so resonant. And do you think that self is also the consciousness, or the one that we're all one consciousness?
I do, actually.
Or is it different?
No,
yeah,
I do. Yeah. So for me, the metaphor I like is from quantum physics, that photons can be both a particle and a wave. And so for me, there's a wave state of self, or a field, where you don't have boundaries. You just, in that total C-word connectedness, you just feel connected to everything. And it's non-dual and unitive. And you can meditate, and you can get into that, where you kind of lose your separateness. And then when you come back from the meditation, you particleize. So self now inside your body has boundaries, acts in the world, relates to other beings, but it's the same self, just in a different form as that godlike wave. So that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, it resonates with me. It's like so natural and organic. It like resonates deeply, intuitively. It's fascinating.
And in terms of the question you asked earlier, in terms of where is this going to go, my vision is that if we could bring enough self to this planet, which would counter all the materialism and the greed and the, people would be in this field, that a lot of healing on the planet could happen pretty quickly. Because self also, clarity is one of those C words. So you see injustice, and you have the courage to act to change that. So it empowers people to be very activistic as well. So my vision is that in a variety of ways, pretty soon, we have to bring a lot of self to this place.
And what inspires you to keep going?
I love it. Some of my guidance is I need more balance in my own life because there's parts of me that just could do this all the time. And we're on the brink of maybe moving back to Chicago to be with my kids and my grandkids so that I can have more balance. And because they deserve it. They deserve having us around. And I miss them. But what keeps me going is that vision and this sense of great privilege to be part of a movement to do that and to be able to spend my time doing what we just did. I mean, when I work with your parts, it's just a treat for me. It's always a new adventure, a new exploration.
Yeah, thank you. That's a deep honor. I'm very touched by what we did, and it just impacted me so much. It's going to color my entire day and my week. I'm very impressionable. that image is still tattooed in my mind.
Yeah, well, do your homework, like I said, and
I will.
And let me know. Let me know how it pans out for you.
And I'm going to find a practitioner here, probably. Maybe do some therapy with IFS.
I'm happy to recommend. Where do you live again?
New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey.
Yeah, I can recommend some people.
Yeah, I would like that. That would be good. Well, thank you so much. I want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to exhaust you. So thank you so much. This is so exciting. And it's taking a lot of popularity in the self-development arena, in the trauma field. Gabor Mate is your friend, I think, right? He speaks highly and he mentions this a lot in his talk. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, it's a strange time because I labored in secret, it seemed like, for so long. To be now so popular is just a strange feeling.
Is there like part of you that is overwhelmed, doesn't like it?
Yes, very much. Yeah. Just
like who are you to do this? Like a critic?
No, not that. It's more, I wind up disappointing so many people now because I just can't say yes to everything, and I can't keep up with email and all of that. But I just hired a full-time assistant, so I'm hoping that she changes my life that way. But it's more the disappointing people.
Thank you so much. This was truly an honor and a treat. All the best to you in your future endeavors. And, I celebrate this work and hope it goes far.
Thank you,
I
Anna.
love its mission.
Thank you for supporting it. And it's great to get to know you and your parts.
I got to know my parts too.
You did.
Thank you again. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That concludes today's conversation, my dear listener, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you weren't bored or lost. I was worried that this may not translate into a good episode, but I'm assuming since you're still listening, then it wasn't boring at all. I would love to know your biggest aha from this episode, your takeaways. Did you find it useful? Are you familiar with IFS? Maybe you're a therapist who uses IFS. I would love to hear from you. As always, you can send me a note to the email info@authenticparenting.com. You can leave a voicemail by calling the number 732-763-2576. And for you, my international listener, I have a free tool on the contact page of my website, authenticparenting.com/contact. If you enjoy the podcast, you can help us out by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's very easy to do. It only takes a few seconds, but it's very helpful. Or by becoming a patron. With a small monthly contribution, you can support your favorite show and get supporter-only benefits and content. To learn more, go to patreon.com/authentic parenting or simply click the link in your show notes. You can find the show and follow it wherever podcasts are played, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and elsewhere. And you can connect with me on Instagram, the only social media platform I use. Until next week, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. I am Anna Seawold. Thank you so much for listening.